Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 182 based on novel. So let's start. Wang Lin was prepared to be low-key during his time on planet Ranyun. This would allow him to safely cultivate and quickly raise his cultivation level so he could return to the Alliance star system. However, low-key didn't mean that he was going to be like a real low-level cultivator and endure. True low-key was to not be afraid of others knowing about him and treating what happened around with complete indifference. He would not participate in any of the situations outside. This kind of low-key with this kind of attitude would create an invisible force that would prevent the top existences on planet Ranyun from offending him. This was the result Wang Lin wanted. His steps were gentle as he returned to the housing in the northern part of the city. The youth was still cultivating under the rock. It looked like the youth had been cultivating seriously all day. As soon as he got near, the youth opened his eyes and softly snorted. "You, stop!" Wang Lin was startled. He stopped walking and looked at the youth. "Do you know what is most important to cultivators?" "I'll tell you, it is diligence." The young man looked at Wang Lin and said, "Although your talent isn't good, if you are diligent, there is a chance for progress. I have guarded this place for many years, and some of the cultivators that came here have already reached the soul formation stage. They never left early in the morning like you and gave up time that could be spent cultivating to waste time wandering around. Your talent isn't good, so you should be more diligent. Otherwise, you won't be able to form your nascent soul in your lifetime." This lesson made Wang Lin even more startled and he revealed a wry smile. When the youth saw Wang Lin's expression, his tone became better. The contempt in his eyes also lessened and he said, "It's not me looking down upon you. You must remember that in the cultivation world, you must not look down upon yourself if you want others to respect you. The spiritual energy here is very dense. If you're done taking care of matters, go into closed-door cultivation for a decade, then maybe there will be a day where you reach the nascent soul stage. By then, I believe you should be able to have some power and responsibility in your family, like me." Wang Lin rubbed his nose. Ever since he became a cultivator, everyone he met had been cunning and selfish. No one would have bothered to say those words to him. After he became powerful, due to all his killing, no one dared to say those things to him. Even Senior Dun Tien didn't have too much time with Wang Lin before he died. At this moment, when he was suddenly scolded by this person, he felt melancholy and quickly nodded in agreement. The youth's expression became even better, but he was still serious as he said, "If you have any problems with your cultivation, you can come and ask me. Remember one thing, having no talent isn't terrifying, what is terrifying is laziness. Us cultivators walk against the heavens. We can't relax our hearts and our bodies. If we do, how will we be able to walk against the heavens to cultivate? Go inside, hurry up and cultivate." If anyone who knew Wang Lin saw this, they would be stunned by this scene. Wang Lin's wry smile became even wider. As he entered the gate, he turned around to look at the youth. From the back, the youth looked somewhat thin, and the large clothes on his body seemed unbalanced. At this moment, a gentle breeze flew by. It lifted the youth's hair, and the youth subconsciously moved his hair behind his ear. He seemed to have noticed Wang Lin's gaze. He turned around to look at Wang Lin before turning back around and no longer bothering with Wang Lin. This youth was a woman disguised in men's clothing. Her face was covered with a spell. Wang Lin saw through this the day before, but as for her actual appearance, Wang Lin didn't break past the spell to see. After returning to the house, Wang Lin sat down in the lotus position. He slapped his bag of holding and 1,000 Celestial Jades immediately flew out. His hand formed a seal and sent out several rays of light toward the large amount of Celestial Jades. The rich celestial spiritual energy was immediately restrained to the area around Wang Lin without any of it leaking out. Wang Lin closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Strands of celestial spiritual energy entered his body and slowly cycled through him. Time slowly passed. 3 days later, Wang Lin opened his eyes. The 1,000 celestial jades around his body had turned to dust and disappeared. He opened his eyes and looked around. Still not enough Celestial Jades. Ascendant cultivation can't compare to soul transformation at all. Back at the soul transformation stage, I could still bear the cost, but now at the ascendant stage, the amount of celestial spiritual energy required is too large. Even with the 200,000 jades from the Sun family, I still won't be able to reach the mid-stage of ascendant. As for the late stage, the amount required will be unimaginable. There is also the peak of the ascendant stage and breaking into the yin and yang stage. Wang Lin's eyebrows knitted tightly together. This was something he didn't understand. Celestial jades were already very scarce, and soul transformation cultivators needed to use them on a daily basis. As the countless years passed, a large number of celestial jades would be consumed. The celestial realm was already gone, so where did all these celestial jades come from? Wang Lin had thought about this before but couldn't think of anything. Also, this is only the first step of cultivation, yet it requires such a large number of celestial jades. How many celestial jades would a cultivator in the second step need? Wouldn't someone like the All-Seer need be the same amount of celestial jades as several ascendant cultivators? Wang Lin's eyebrows knitted tighter. Could it be that the second step doesn't need celestial jades? Or is it that there is a special way to replace celestial jades? A bold guess entered Wang Lin's mind. As he pondered, he moved his head. There was a gentle breeze and the old man in black from the Sun family appeared outside the house. Wang Lin waved his right hand and removed the restriction on the house. The old man quickly entered, and after hesitating for a moment, he also lowered his cultivation level to the core formation stage. He entered the room with a bitter smile in his heart. Senior, I was in a rush last time, so I didn't introduce myself. Junior is Sun family member Sun Chiming. I am the person in charge of the city here. I was wondering if I may learn Senior's name. The old man was extremely respectful. For the old ancestor to personally come out, this was someone he couldn't offend. Wang Lin calmly said, Shu Mu. Senior Shu, the 200,000 celestial jades have been prepared by the family. Please check them. The old man quickly took out a bag of holding. The old man couldn't help but sigh. 200,000 celestial jades were gifted just like that by the old ancestor. This immediately showed how abnormal this person was. After taking the bag, Wang Lin didn't check it. He believed that that fellow ascendant cultivator from the Sun family wouldn't try to cheat him on this. After the old man handed over the bag of holding, he quickly said, Senior can rest assured, Junior has already given the order to make sure yesterday's matter doesn't spread. No one even knows that Junior came here today, so no one will disturb Senior's cultivation. In addition, if Senior wants to go into closed-door cultivation, there are better places in the city. Wang Lin calmly said, No need. You can go. The old man quickly and respectfully backed up. After hesitating a little, he said, Senior, in 7 days, the Ran family's whole treasure pavilion will have an auction. It will include a rank 8 fake god pill. Wang Lin's gaze coldly swept the old man. The old man immediately trembled and swallowed the latter part of his sentence. The room was completely quiet and time passed by. However, to the old man, it felt very long. It was as if each breath lasted a year. This silence created a silent pressure that made the old man tremble. He didn't want to do this, but the family ordered him to test this person's cultivation, so he had to bite the bullet and ask the question. However, there was a hint of hope in his heart that this silence wasn't because Senior Shumu saw through his words but was tempted by the rank 8 fake god pill. Shortly after, Wang Lin slowly opened his mouth. Bring it here. The old man's face was pale as he stared at Wang Lin. He immediately reacted and took out a red token. He whispered, This is a token for the auction. You can go. After receiving the token, Wang Lin closed his eyes. The old man quickly left the house and let out a breath of relief. Cold sweat had already soaked his clothes, and at this moment, Wang Lin's cold words entered his ears. There won't be a second time. The old man's expression suddenly became pale. He quickly turned around and respectfully bowed before disappearing in a breeze. In a remote part of the city, he reappeared and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. At the moment Wang Lin's words entered his ears, he knew that all his thoughts had been seen through by him. This level of scheming made him terrified. He acted according to what the family told him and used the rank 8 fake god pill to test Wang Lin. If Wang Lin took the token, then it meant that Wang Lin was most likely an ascendant cultivator. If Wang Lin wasn't tempted, he was to evacuate all family members inside the city without any explanation. He had already gotten his answer, but his heart was unsettled. Rank 8 pill, Wang Lin pondered as he held the token. Wang Lin knew the ranking of pills very well. After all, Li Muwen was an alchemy grandmaster. There were 9 ranks for pills, and each rank had low, mid, and high quality. Rank 9 pills could be considered god pills, rank 8 were fake god pills, and rank 7 were celestial pills. Back when Wang Lin formed his nascent soul, he swallowed a high-quality rank 6 pill. The ranks of these pills were made up by the later generations. Although names like Celestial and God sound amazing, they can't compare to the real Celestial and God pills. The differences are like heaven and earth. To be more accurate, rank 9 pills are the limit. If one reaches the second step, pills become ineffective unless they obtain real Celestial and God pills. However, with my current cultivation level, a rank 8 pill is still effective. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he made his decision. That black-robed junior wouldn't dare to test my cultivation with the pill. It must be the Sun family's ascendant cultivator. He couldn't see through my cultivation and used this gentle method to test my cultivation. If I wasn't tempted, that would mean that I have already stepped past the first step of cultivation. Wang Lin touched the bag containing 200,000 Celestial Jades and then put this matter in the back of his mind. A ray of red light was flying across the northern domain of the All-Heaven star system, and an ancient voice came from within. Maya, this is your teacher's hometown and your future home. Thinking about it now, it has been thousands of years since I returned. If it wasn't for the All-Heaven stone left by the ancestor, it wouldn't have been so easy for teacher to bring you there. There was a woman inside the ray of red light. As the woman looked at this unfamiliar star system, there wasn't any sense of belonging. The glass-looking planet is Planet 1000 Illusion. This is one of the main 5 stars in the northern domain of the All-Heaven star system. My All-Heaven star system cares a lot about bloodlines. Without the family bloodline, you won't be able to practice higher-level cultivation methods and won't receive protection from the family. From now on, aside from being my disciple, you are also my adopted daughter. Once I return to Planet 1000 Illusion, I'll cast the blood exchange ritual to change your bloodline. From then on you will no longer be called Liu Mai but Huan Mai. Do you agree? The old man's eyes were bright as he looked at the woman. He was very satisfied with his disciple and didn't want her to suffer due to some old tradition of the All-Heaven star system. Without a proper bloodline, she would have no status. Therefore, he didn't hesitate to use the rarely used bloodline exchange ritual to change her bloodline. The woman pondered. Master had already mentioned this to her on their way here. She pondered for a moment before nodding. Everything will go according to Master's will. The old man laughed and was very happy. Maya, this old man will definitely nurture you into a second-step cultivator. You'll reach beyond this old man's Nirvana Scryer cultivation level. The red light quickly flew by, leaving behind only the sound of laughter as it charged straight toward the bright Planet 1000 Illusion. The woman looked at Planet 1000 Illusion and thought in her heart, this trip to All-Heaven star system is a new life for me. Wang Lin and everything that happened on planet Suzaku are now in the past. With his talent, he probably hasn't even reached the ascendant stage yet. Also, it isn't even certain whether he can pass the life and death trial when breaking into the ascendant stage. The difference between him and me has been getting wider and wider. He is no longer qualified to be considered my opponent. Unfortunately, the special magical treasure I prepared for him no longer has any use. The woman took a deep breath as she thought about the magical treasure that she had prepared especially for Wang Lin. There was a hint of heartbreaking pain in her eyes, but that was soon masked by indifference. He is probably still on planet Suzaku. Compared to me, he is no longer on the same level. The ray of red light entered Planet 1000 Illusion and disappeared. On planet Renun, a large amount of celestial jades floated around Wang Lin as he slowly absorbed celestial spiritual energy. After 7 days, he opened his eyes. There was lightning moving inside his eyes, making them look very strange. After taking a large breath and devouring the remaining celestial spiritual energy, a large number of celestial jades became dust. Wang Lin seemed to notice something as he looked outside, so he stood up and walked outside. The youth under the stone was still cultivating. The youth let out 2 white strands of gas which circled around her body before gradually disappearing. She opened her eyes while looking up at the sky and muttered, "My talent isn't enough, but with diligence I'll reach the mid-stage of nascent soul one day." Just at this moment, she suddenly frowned. A person walked toward her. This person had black hair and wore a purple robe without any ornaments. This person looked like he was only 30 years old. He looked very handsome and gave off a fierce aura, making him seem very remarkable. As he stood there, it was as if he had become one with the surroundings. It was impossible to tell the two apart. This person currently had his hands behind his back. He looked at the entrance as if he was waiting for something. Noticing the gaze of the youth under the rock, he casually looked at the youth and then no longer paid any attention to her. The youth under the rock frowned even harder. She couldn't see through this man's cultivation, but she had a feeling that this was someone she shouldn't provoke. She felt a sense of crisis coming from her soul. There was a flash of light at the entrance of one of the rooms as a person walked out. It was Wang Lin. The moment he appeared, the person wearing purple suddenly arrived. A sense of prestige and majesty came from Wang Lin. A hint of battle intent vaguely came from the man in purple, but it was forcibly suppressed by him. Aside from Wang Lin, no one else could detect it. The youth under the stone suddenly felt the surrounding climate become cold as if winter had arrived. Her heart skipped a beat and she vaguely felt like something bad was going to happen. When she saw Wang Lin come out, she immediately said, "Go back." Wang Lin was startled and looked at the youth under the stone. The youth stood up. Her large robe looked very unbalanced, but she had a serious expression on her face. In a few steps, she arrived at the control point of the formation. She urgently said, "What are you standing there for? Go back. This person is obviously here to cause trouble for you. I'm in charge of the formation here, so I'll keep you safe." As she spoke, she slapped her bag of holding and a jade appeared in her hand. Wang Lin carefully looked at the youth and said, "You're not his match." The youth frowned again. She held the jade up and said, "You don't have to worry about this. If you insist on coming out, then I'm not going to help with this matter." Wang Lin was stunned. He took 2 steps back and went back inside the formation. The youth immediately arrived before Wang Lin. She looked at the man in purple and loudly said, "Senior, this is a housing area of my Sun family. I wonder why Senior is here." The man in purple was also startled, and the battle intent completely disappeared. His eyes were filled with interest as he carefully examined the youth and smiled. "What is your name?" The youth's expression froze for a moment and she said, "Junior's name is Sun Ling." The man in purple nodded and said, "You're very dedicated to your job, good. You can leave. The person I'm looking for is the person behind you." The youth's expression changed and she said, "Senior, if he leaves the area, then Junior won't do anything. However, since he is still in the housing area, then this is Junior's responsibility." The man in purple frowned and coldly looked at the youth. Then his gaze went past the youth and landed on Wang Lin. One gaze caused Sun Ling's body to tremble. She suddenly felt like the person standing before her was not a cultivator but an ancient beast. That gaze was like a warning. If she said any more or didn't move out of the way, she would be torn apart by that ancient beast. Wang Lin's expression was still calm. He was completely indifferent to the man's gaze. The youth's origin soul was trembling, but she still stood before Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at the youth's back and began to ponder. Sun Ling took a deep breath and clenched his teeth. "Senior, as long as he doesn't step out, I'm responsible for his safety. Besides, he is only a core formation cultivator." "Senior." The man in purple frowned. Being refuted so many times with his identity made displeasure appear in his heart. You, back. However, before the man in purple finished speaking, Wang Lin suddenly spoke up. Enough. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he walked out of the formation at the entrance. At the moment he walked out, Sun Ling immediately said, "Why did you leave? Come back." She was about to crush the jade in her hand. This jade would send out a message. Wang Lin turned around. He faintly smiled and said, "There is no problem." With that, Wang Lin walked toward the man in purple. A blue mist appeared. It surrounded the area and blocked Sun Ling's sight. There were 30 steps between Wang Lin and the man in purple. Wang Lin looked extremely calm as he walked toward him. The man in purple was initially very comfortable, but as Wang Lin closed in, he felt a pressure coming from Wang Lin. This pressure was very powerful. When Wang Lin was only 10 steps from him, the pressure almost reached its peak. The man in purple's expression slightly changed and his eyes lit up brightly. He stared at Wang Lin, and instead of stepping back, he forced himself to stay still. Wang Lin didn't stop and took another step forward. The moment that step landed, it was as if a thunderous roar exploded in the man's mind. It was as if that step hadn't landed on the ground, but in his mind. The man couldn't help but back up one step. Back up one step, back up many steps. Wang Lin took 8 steps, and each step was like a thunderclap in the man in purple's mind. As he took each step, the effect seemed to stack. This created a storm inside the man's mind. As he continued to back up, his expression became pale. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Wang Lin. On the final step, Wang Lin lifted his foot and looked at the man in purple. There was a hint of coldness in his eyes as he suddenly stepped down. If the steps from before were gradually building up power, then this last step was an outburst of all the power that gathered from before. The man in purple's expression changed greatly. He backed up without hesitation and clasped his hands. "Fellow cultivator, I had no ill intent." Wang Lin coldly looked at the man and walked past him. The man in purple let out a wry smile and followed after Wang Lin. When the blue mist disappeared, there was no trace of anything that had happened. Sun Ling didn't feel what happened inside the mist. She let out a sigh and sat down in the lotus position under the rock once more. It will be very difficult for him to live after being taken away by that senior. The youth was afraid for a while before closing her eyes and going back to cultivating. She had fulfilled her duty. After reaching the northern part of the city, Wang Lin leisurely walked toward the whole treasure pavilion on the east side. The man in purple put on a wry smile and said, "Fellow cultivator Shu, my name is Sun 11. I had no ill intent earlier." Due to his status, he would normally never speak to someone with the same cultivation level as him like this. However, when he tested this person earlier, this Shu Mu's cultivation was too mysterious and he wasn't able to see any clues at all. This wasn't the most important part. He felt a sense of confidence and powerful killing intent from Wang Lin. This aura could only come from someone who had killed someone of the same cultivation level, and not just once. This was the only way to gain this aura of self-confidence. This Sun 11 was one of the 3 ascendant cultivators on planet Renyun. He was the old ancestor of the Sun family, an early-stage ascendant cultivator. After finishing his cultivation at the seabed, he rushed over to this city. Wang Lin calmly said, "I warned you before." In his heart, although Sun 11 was at the same cultivation level as him, he didn't consider him an equal. In fact, Wang Lin didn't consider any cultivator on planet Renyun a threat. Moreover, this Sun 11 had come even after hearing his warning, which meant that Sun 11 had come to ask for a favor. Even so, Sun 11 needed to be punished, or else there would be more trouble in the future. This was why Wang Lin's tone was not polite at all. Wang Lin had cultivated for almost 1,000 years and had experienced many things in his life. Most of the time, when you treat a person like a person, they treat you like you're weak. However, if you treat them like they are weak, they will treat you like you are strong. This was the same as the children back in Wang Lin's village. Those that showed weakness were bullied. Those that were smart would show their strength, so other children rarely provoked them. This was even the same for Wang Lin's family back then. The strong and weak would never be on equal footing, the difference was as wide as heaven and earth. This was a type of mentality. If you are weak, the other person is strong. If you are strong, the other person is weak. Wang Lin had cultivated for many years, so he understood many things. Sun 11 pondered. After a long time, he wryly smiled. This was me being reckless, but I have an important thing to ask, so I was a bit hasty. Wang Lin didn't reply but continued walking forward. Sun 11 clenched his teeth and said, "Brother Shu, if you help me this once, I can use the entire Sun family to help you cultivate." Wang Lin calmly said, "Your family can't afford to nurture 2 ascendant cultivators." Sun Shi's eyes became serious and he said, "Brother Shu, my Sun family indeed can't support 2 ascendant cultivators. However, if you help me, I can give you the spot to enter the Thunder Celestial Realm in a century." Wang Lin paused and looked sideways at Sun 11. He withdrew his gaze and continued walking forward. "I believe that Brother Shu also knows that whenever my All-Heaven Star System's Thunder Celestial Realm opens, all the Thunder Cauldrons used for entering the Thunder Celestial Realm are controlled by the Thunder Celestial Hall. It's be impossible for an outsider to obtain them. Only people of my All-Heaven Star System and families recorded in the Thunder Celestial Hall can obtain a spot." Sun Shi's eyes were half closed as if he was just randomly explaining the details. Very few people who had reached the ascendant stage weren't cunning. This Sun 11 was also the founding ancestor of his family, so he was very cunning. Earlier, under Wang Lin's pressure, he had to act weak, but now he began his counterattack. The explanation also pointed out his suspicion of Wang Lin's history. Wang Lin faintly smiled. "Your family has a junior named Sun Shueshan. Is he doing well?" Sun Shi's eyes revealed a strange light and gave Wang Lin a meaningful look, then he smiled. "Shueshan has good cultivation, but not enough experience. I'm very grateful that Brother Shu saved him." The two smiled at each other and withdrew their gazes. Sun Shi's dread toward Wang Lin became even stronger. He glanced at Wang Lin from the side and sighed in his heart. This person's origin is mysterious and his way of thinking is extremely profound. Sun Chiming's scouting before was immediately seen through by him. He was able to dissolve the doubt that I pointed out about his identity by mentioning Shueshan. He has already changed his appearance, so at most I can only pretend to not notice and not dig any further into this matter. However, he admitted to it himself, which is strange. He is obviously not afraid that I know. His cultivation level is also very high, far above mine. Someone like this is someone my Sun family must become friends with and not make an enemy out of. Planet Donglin. Could this person really be from Planet Donglin? Sun 11 silently pondered. Sun 11 asked, "Is Brother Shu satisfied with my proposal? We will discuss this matter later. I'll need some time to consider it." Wang Lin easily dodged the question. Sun 11 secretly sighed and no longer tried to test Wang Lin. He began introducing Planet Renyun to Wang Lin. As the two talked, they arrived at the Whole Treasure Pavilion in the east side of the city. Today was the day of the auction at the Whole Treasure Pavilion, so there were a lot of cultivators gathered outside. There were more than 10 people working reception and leading people according to the level displayed on their tokens. The moment Sun 11 and Wang Lin closed, Sun Chiming, who had been waiting outside the pavilion, quickly walked up to them. His eyes were filled with respect as he bowed. Third-generation Sun Chiming greets old ancestor and senior Shu. Sun 11 revealed his majesty before others. He didn't speak and simply nodded. Sun Chiming had arrived at the Whole Treasure Pavilion earlier. Although the Whole Treasure Pavilion belonged to the Ran family, Sun Chiming was the head of the Sun family in this city, so he naturally had higher status compared to other people. He personally led Wang Lin and Sun 11 directly to the 4th floor instead of allowing a worker to lead them. The youth named Lu that had blocked Wang Lin from entering before was talking to some customers. When he saw Wang Lin, he raised his head. He was immediately startled, but then he saw Sun Chiming and was immediately shocked. As for Sun 11, Lu didn't know who he was, but when he noticed how respectful Sun Chiming was, he assumed that Sun 11 was someone with very high status in the Sun family. When he looked Wang Lin, the youth named Lu felt like he had missed something. The whole treasure pavilion was divided into 4 floors. The 4th floor was divided into rooms. Sun 11 and Wang Lin sat down inside the first room from the left. The location was excellent, they could see the auction on the 2nd floor at a glance. Sun Chiming respectfully stood on the side, waiting for Sun Shi's order. At the moment he entered, Wang Lin suddenly had a strange feeling. It was as if something inside his mind had stirred. When he spread out his divine sense, he immediately saw the old figure in the 3rd floor. It's him. Wang Lin was startled and immediately withdrew his divine sense. The imprint on his body is very light, most of it has already dissipated. There is a problem here. Sun 11 looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, Brother Shu, this rank 8 pill has some history. This pill does not come from planet Renun but from a foreign cultivator who was seriously injured and fled here. The Ran family's ancestor, and Carefree Jusha worked together to steal it. The cultivator died to the Ran family's ancestor. Wang Lin frowned, then he glanced at Sun 11 but didn't speak. He didn't want to know secrets like this, but Sun 11 still told him. It probably had some relation to the matter Sun 11 wanted to ask his help for. Sun 11 pretended not to see Wang Lin's gaze and continued, this was 4 years ago. This pill is very precious, especially to ascendant cultivators like us. There was not one but a total of 5 pills. Me and Carefree Jusha both obtained 1 each. The Ran family's ancestor is at the mid-stage of ascendant, so he took 3 of the pills. Wang Lin's expression remained the same as he looked at the 2nd floor as if he wasn't listening. Sun 11 didn't mind and continued, it was just that the pills were a bit hot. We saw a token of the Huan family of Planet 1000 illusion in bag of the cultivator the Ran family's ancestor killed. Wang Lin turned his head, looked at Sun 11, and blandly said, Fellow cultivator Sun, I don't like listening to stories. Sun 11 faintly smiled and said, Brother Shu, if I hadn't told you this story, someone else would have. This city belongs to my Sun family, yet the pill is being auctioned here. I believe that with Brother Shu's wisdom, you should be aware of the reason. Wang Lin's expression was neutral. He had his doubts before, but because he didn't understand the All-Heaven Star system that well, he didn't think about it. However, now that Sun 11 had pointed it out, his gaze swept past the 2nd floor and became cold. Sun 11 had always been staring at Wang Lin's expression. At the moment he saw the coldness in Wang Lin's eyes, he felt relief, as his goal was reached. He no longer spoke, he poured himself a cup of tea and began tasting it. The coldness only flashed across Wang Lin's eyes for an instant before disappearing. Unless the mid-stage ascendant cultivator of the Ran family allowed it, how could it be auctioned here? The price of this pill must have been as high as the heavens. Also, this pill was useless to people below the ascendant stage. Not only would it be useless to most people, the high profile of the auction would make them a target. Anyone who was smart wouldn't buy it. A cultivator below the ascendant stage couldn't consume a rank 8 pill. If they consumed it, it would be the same as devouring poison. The reason the pill was auctioned here was Wang Lin. The Ran cultivator wanted to secretly tempt Wang Lin into buying the pill. Wang Lin didn't feel it was strange that the Ran family cultivator knew he was here. After all, the planet was named after the Ran family. If they didn't have any methods, they wouldn't have maintained their family's current status. Taking the pill would be tantamount to participating in the matter from 4 years ago. Even if he tried to explain it to the Huan family, it would be pointless. What deep scheming! Wang Lin's expression was calm, but his heart was on guard. No ascendant cultivator was easy to deal with, and no one that founded a family was weak. The Ran family controls the auction, so no one else will buy this pill. If I don't buy it, then the Ran family will find another method to drag me into this. The auction on the 2nd floor had begun. Various magical weapons, materials, and pills were bidded upon. Sun 11 put down the tea and muttered to himself, unfortunately, 4 years ago, that person didn't have time to tell us his identity before the 3 of us sneak attacked him and killed him. If we had known that he was from the Huan family, then we wouldn't have dared to attack. The Huan family of Planet 1000 Illusion is extremely overbearing. If their family members are killed, everyone implicated is killed. Even if one obtains something from their family members through an auction, they will still incur their wrath. What the Huan family wants is absolute status. Even if things from a Huan family member's bag of holding were placed before you, you still wouldn't dare to take it and instead would willingly return it. Otherwise, you can only hope they don't find you, but you will forever live in fear while worrying for your life. Unfortunately, I'm still afraid to consume the pill I have. Wang Lin didn't speak, his gaze was still on the second floor. A man's voice came from the second floor. The next item in the auction is a rank 8 pill. This pill can only be taken by ascendant cultivators. If anyone below the ascendant stage takes it, their body will explode and they will die. Now the auction will start. 10,000 Celestial Jades. This video will end here.